Hey everyone, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. Tonight we're going to go back to the great state of Arkansas, Woo-Pig-Sooie. We're going to talk to Mr. Billy Littleton tonight. Billy got a top 10 finish last year at the Greers Ferry tournament. That's for the Major League Fishing BFL Arkie division. That tournament is coming up in a few weeks, so we're going to talk to him about his tournament last year, what he was able to put together, what he predicts for this year. Talked to already a few anglers about the tournament. They predict there's going to be a really good wave of spawners coming up, so a lot of shallow water fishing. But we're going to talk to Billy and see what he thinks is going to happen. Before we get started, as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Almost up to 500 subscribers, so thank you so much to our loyal subscribers. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. Hope you're really enjoying the content. I know I've been having a lot of fun interviewing all these anglers with the BFL circuit, so thank you for that. Also, check us out on Facebook and Instagram. That's Revital Outdoors. And if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company. We offer premium CBD products for all the outdoor enthusiasts. We're THC-free, made right here in America. No failed drug tests. We are a worker-friendly brand. So you can purchase our products on our website. And also, if you're an outdoor enthusiast that's looking to represent Revital Outdoors, please check out our pro staff opportunities. You can click on that pro staff tab, fill out the application. We'll be happy to review it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Mr. Billy Littleton from the state of Arkansas. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Great, Theron. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, buddy. You know, we just were talking a little bit before we got on the podcast. You've got a lot of great history on Greers Ferry, a lot of great history in the state of Arkansas, but specifically Greers Ferry. So tell us a little bit more about the lake. I've been there a few times. It's a fun little lake to fish. What makes it click for you?
Well, you know, Greers is about 32,000 acres, and what's going to be different this year than what's been years in the past, we've had a lot of high water in the last decade. And so this year, the water is pretty normal. It's just a little bit in the buck bushes, and it's still pretty cold. I think it was like 49 yesterday. I had a friend out there on it, but I think it's going to be a good tournament. They're having it earlier than normal. A lot of times when we come here, it's in May, 1st of May, so it's all post-spawn. Mm-hmm. So this time, I think it'll be a different setup.
Okay. So, that being said, when you tell that to me, that tells me that they're going to probably be up shallow, a lot of spawn fish being caught, still some pre-spawners out there, lagging around the 5 to 18 foot range. What do you predict?
Well, if you've never been to Greers, it used to have a 15-inch minimum. Now it's 12, and there are a lot of small fish in the lake. So it'll be a limit fest, in my opinion. I do think there will be fish in both phases, pre-spawn, spawn. But everybody's who's going to find that bigger fish. And I don't know what the weather's going to do the next 2 weeks, but I do believe that the guy who finds that good pre-spawn pattern might be the guy that wins.
Okay. So how do you kind of attack? Let's talk about practice a little bit, and let's review your tournament last year. What were you able to kind of piece together into practice, and what's your strategy? What's your strong suit when you're fishing Greers?
Well, I try to check the smallmouth and the largemouth because they both play on this lake. And there's times those big smallmouth, you can actually win a tournament with them. Mm-hmm. And I found some smallmouth on the lower end of the lake. And so last year, my game plan was just to go south and catch me a limit of smallmouth. And when I had that 2-pound average limit, I knew it was going to be hard to upgrade from that. At the areas that I'd found. So then I started chasing blacks, and I was able to call all those out for black bass. Right. Actually, one of the guys that I roomed with actually won the event, and he won it on the north end of the lake last year.
Really? Okay. So the north end, that's where you guys launch out of this year, correct?
It is. Normally launch out of Devil's Fork, best ramp on the lake. And basically everything north of the Narrows, you're going to have a little more stain, more largemouth in that part of the lake.
Okay. I got you. So, when we're talking about Greers a little bit and talking about chasing the smallmouth and the spotted bass, do you kind of chase them like the same way? Is there something that they do differently when they're in that spawn period, or just, anything to kind of think about that's different from regular just fishing in the state of Arkansas?
Yeah, most of the smallmouth are going to be out deeper, 6 to 12 foot is where they mostly spawn in our lake. Okay. And, guys that catch those Carolina rigging a lot of times. I throw a tube on them a lot. A finesse jig's really good. I tell you what's interesting about this event. You got guys that are coming like Brian Bean, his dad, Dennis, says he was a great sight fisherman. And I can remember years back when he caught the 10-pounder and maybe an 8 or 9 the next year on the same event. So there will be a possibility somebody's going to be looking at him and catch some big ones.
Okay. Well, that really intrigues me. As far as weight-wise, what do you think it's going to take this year?
Normally 13 pounds will win it. And this year, I think it's a possibility of a 15-pound bag because there'll be guys looking at smallmouth too. There's some guys that sight fish those, and there'll be places where you can. It's going to depend on the weather. If we get a windy, cloudy day, that pre-spawn deal is going to be better because I think there'll still be some crankbait fish caught and some even possibly some rig fish caught, 8-rig fish over brush piles. But if it's sunny and slick, I think it's going to be one shallow, and somebody's probably going to be looking at a big one.
Okay. That was my next question is, will the A-rig factor? I mean, I know year-round state of Arkansas, the A-rig is a player. What do you think about it for this year at Greers Ferry?
I'm not a huge fan to throw it, but it's very effective. And I do believe that, and I don't know if Cody Davis is going to fish this year. He's a good angler up here in our neck of the woods. Him and his dad win a lot of tournaments on this lake, and they have lots of brush piles on the lower end. Someone like him that has a lot of piles could definitely take an A-rig and might do real good. But I don't know. I just from history on this lake, if the weather stays normal, I think somebody's going to be looking at a big one. The deal is with these big fish on this lake, what my experience with them is they don't stay up very long. No. So you got a day or so or 2 days, and I think they lay and leave, and you'll see them roaming around the beds on the outside, but they just don't stay very long. So with the time to be right.
I heard a crazy story when I was going to school in Arkansas. It came from a biologist, and I don't know if this was an A student or a C student. I'm not really sure. But he said something that's always stuck with me. He said that fish, and bass in particular, largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth bass, in the state of Arkansas, they spawn a little bit quicker than bass in the rest of the country because the water is so clear, and they've evolved themselves from trying to stay away from the predators such as the eagles and the hawks. You think that's true?
I don't know if it's predators or sometimes I think it's lack of cover, some of it, because a lake like Greers or Bull or North Fork, the areas that I fish a lot up here, when the water's really high, those fish tend to stay shallow for much longer.
Right.
But when there's no cover, there's just very little cover, they don't stay very long. You see a big 4-pound, 5-6-pound female up there, she's probably gone in 12 hours sometimes when you come back, and you may never see her again.
Right.
I think that's
I know what you mean, but there's not much cover because it seems like a lot of tournaments that, I've read about or researched, or I've talked to anglers on here on this podcast. They talk about you have to key in on the laydowns. If there's a dead tree falling over in Lake Ouachita, Greers, or Hamilton, you always want to target those. Do you think that's because there's such little cover up shallow that's going to create a lot of cover that the fish are going to relate to?
I do, and I feel like they feel a lot safer if they're against something, whether it be a stump or log or how they get in those hard places. It's hard to get a bait sometimes. But I think the water, if it'll come up a foot, it'll help those sight fishermen for this event. If it continues to stay where it's at or fall, then those guys that are going to catch them out there in that 6 to 12. And I think a lot of these big fish, and I say big fish, over 5 pounds, some of them may spawn deeper.
Okay.
Especially the years where the lake is clear, you don't have a lot of rain influx,
Right. So, well, switching gears a little bit, let's think about, we talked about, kind of how to attack as a boater. What do you think as a co-angler, somebody that wants to fish this? We were talking before the podcast, you have a co-angler experience. Let's say a co-angler is bringing 3 rods to this event. Obviously, there's going to be a good probability they're going to draw somebody that's, looking at fish on beds. That's can be, hell for the co-angler, but then they can also work it toward their advantage. So what are some thoughts for you as a co-angler in this event?
If I was a co-angler in this event, I would ask my boater which end of the lake we're going to fish. So if we were going south, I would definitely have, a tube tied on with a 3/16 ounce head in it. I would probably have a drop shot type bait on or a Ned rig. And then I would probably have a Carolina rig or something along that line. Maybe even a fluke. A weightless fluke's really good too. Almost fish. If I was on the north end, if he said we're going way up the river or something, I'd have me a flipping bait. maybe even a top water of some kind. And then, just a Texas rig, something I could throw in the heart of some of that brush up there, because there'll be a lot of guys who like to fish that dirty water, and that's where they're going to go. It's not really dirty, but it's a little dirtier in the south end. So,
right. So,
Billy,
I really appreciate. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Chris Houston. Those guys like to fish shallow, and we've got some local guys like Leland Nixon. He likes to fish this in the lake. So we'll just see how it plays out. But I think it's going to be a better event than what they've had in the past when it's in May.
Right. Leland Nixon, I think he's the brother of this one guy. I don't know. They call him the General or something like that, like Larry Nixon. I think that's his name. I think he's been around.
And Leland's a good fisherman. He's had some bad luck in these events for getting that big bite, but he's a friend, and he's a good fisherman, and it'll happen for him.
Yeah, Leland's a great angler. I'll always remember when I was in college, he would always come up to me, and we would, shoot the bull a little bit at tournament meetings and all that. And phenomenal angler. One thing I got to hand to Leland, he's a phenomenal finesse angler.
Yes, he is. He likes to, I know he likes to jerk bait and a few other things, but he usually does well. I mean, I don't think he made the top 10 last year, but he always has a limit of fish. And in this lake, you're always one bite away from being in that top 10.
Right. So, all right, Billy. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. You gave us a lot of great intel. Before we let you go, though, we just want to give you the opportunity to give any shout outs or thank yous to your friends, your family, sponsors, anybody that supports you. I know you got a great reputation around the area of Greers Ferry. So I just want to give you that opportunity.
Well, of course, my wife, she's put up with me for 30 years and let me go fishing. Spent a lot of hours away from her on the weekends and a lot of nights. And, Denali Rods has been real good to help me, and right bite baits. If you're going to throw a tube, to me, there's not a better tube, whether you're flipping or in a head. Gary Jeffrey's a great guy and got great products. He makes a great jig, and I use a lot of his stuff. But, there's several up here that have helped me over the years and still do, and I appreciate every one of them. A lot of personal friends even that have stepped out there and helped me. But I'm just thankful to be part of the fishing community. It's just you meet a lot of great people and a lot of good friends, whether it's anglers, or just other boaters in the team trails.
Absolutely. A lot of great camaraderie. Some of the bestest, greatest friends that I've ever met in my life came from fishing. So it's Absolutely. A great sport. Highly recommend everyone to get involved with it. And we were just talking before we got on air. Anybody that's watching this, please take your kids fishing, get them introduced to fishing. I say all the time, if you introduce your kids to fishing, they darn sure won't have any money to get themselves in trouble when they get a little older. So
the most enjoyable days I've ever had on the water have been with my children.
That's a fact. So, and Billy, thank you for taking your kids fishing, introducing them to the greatest sport that probably God ever created. It's a lot of fun, and really honored to get to talk to you on this podcast. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, I appreciate you, and good luck with the podcast and the products. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I hope it continues to grow for you.
Absolutely. And Billy, we hope to have you back on this year, because that usually means your 2022 tournament season's going well for you.
Well, I may jump in this one. I've got a little motor issue right now. Let's see how long that's going to take to get fixed, but I'll probably jump in this if I'm up and running.
Good for you. Well, good luck to you this year and in all the tournaments you're fishing. Good luck to all the Arkansas anglers that are fishing the Arkie Division BFL Tournament Series in 2022. As always, thank you for tuning into this podcast. You've been talking to Mr. Billy Littleton, again, top 10 angler from last year's Greers Ferry Tournament in the Arkansas Arkie Division for the BFL Major League Fishing Tournament. So thank you, Billy, again for being on. Be sure before you get off here to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And as always, God bless, be safe out there, and we'll talk to everyone on the next podcast.